Stop forcing your meditation. Neuroscience shows what actually works. Why do many mythologies explore a fall from grace? Archaeological evidence demonstrates how our Paleolithic ancestors took care of each other, how they enjoyed a spiritual matriarchy, wherein people's tendencies to be flexible, loving, rational, laid back, egalitarian, lucid, cooperative, and kind were nurtured. Sadly, approximately 13,000 years ago, during the Neolithic Revolution, patriarchy rose to power, where that conditioned people to habitually indulge their tendencies to be rigid, fearful, superstitious, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel. Perhaps that is why Sturgeon's law reminds us that 90% of everything sucks. Instead of being like groovy Qui-Gon Jinn, humanity became more like grumpy Mace Windu. Instead of being like the dude, people were more like the Big Lebowski. So, patriarchy is insidious. It gets its hands on everything, even spirituality. And so it takes spirituality and makes it rigid and controlling. Consider, if you will, mindfulness and meditation. Patriarchy will replace mindfulness with focus. It will replace meditation with analysis. The price of over-focusing and over-analyzing is that our medial and dorsolateral prefrontal cortices become so fatigued that they trigger our amygdala, the seat of both anxiety and aggression. But there's some good news. Authentic meditation helps us to therapeutically cooperate with both our sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems to such a degree that not only do we calm the anxiety and aggression of our amygdala, but we gently stimulate our anterior cingulate gyrus, which functions as the hub of our mirror neurons, the seat of empathy, the root of both compassion and love. Sounds great. Sign me up. How do we do this? Well, let's begin with mindfulness. Every time we inhale, whether we know it or not, we have evolved to automatically access the middle bit of our spinal cord, which functions as the core of our sympathetic nervous system, which has evolved to help us to vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly watch all mind's antics of perception, emotion, intention, cognition, recollection, and imagination. All of them. From the external to the internal, from the physical to the mental, from the pleasurable to the painful, from the interesting to the boring, from the convenient to the arduous, from the glorious to the grotesque. But what are we to do with all that stuff we watched? Why, we meditate, of course. Every time we exhale, I hope I said it before, mindfulness is about inhalation, meditation is about exhalation. Every time we exhale, whether we know it or not, we've evolved to automatically access both the tippy top and as well as the very bottom regions of the same spinal cord. These two regions, working as a team, function as the core of our parasympathetic nervous system, which has evolved to help us to physically relax and mentally release during our exhalation to such a degree that that which we watched during our previous inhalation could fleetingly feel at least a little bit less stressful, less permanent, less defining, and as non-graspable as a vast, empty void. Figures of speech, it would seem, are only as meaningful as they are relatable. Therefore, we must ask the question, what? What is a real-world example of a non-graspable, vast, empty void? How about the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which, although could look tantalizing to the eye, could feel non-graspable to the hand? And so we see that there is nothing mystical or magical about no self or emptiness. They are merely figures of speech we use to describe the experience latent within each exhalation. And so we see two things going on. We choose mindfulness and meditation over concentration and analysis. We play with the words watch and rest, not to coerce our autonomic nervous system, but to cooperate with our autonomic nervous system. We do not have to force our autonomic nervous system to watch and rest. It has already evolved to do that, like a program or an application running in the background of our smartphone. Why then do we silently and mentally recite the two verbs watch and rest? Simple. To remind our will, our volition, our intention to take a relaxing break from the exhausting habit of competing against our own autonomic nervous system. But if neither no self nor emptiness are the panaceas that patriarchy insisted they were, then what is the point of mindfulness and meditation? What if enlightenment? What if, let us set aside the grandiose and mythical definitions of enlightenment and consider the possibility that enlightenment was nothing more than mastery of the Buddha's Eightfold Path. But what is mastery? Once we have mastered a skill, we tend to practice it spontaneously, habitually, easily, and effectively. As children, we mastered the skills of using the commode instead of our diapers, of brushing our teeth, tying our shoes, riding a bike, no less, reading, writing, and arithmetic. Did you know there's a way to master the Buddha's Eightfold Path? Consider, if you will, the seventh and eighth folds of mindfulness and meditation whose technique we just explored. Simply by sitting and breathing and watching and resting as little as once every 12 hours or so, we cannot help but viscerally experience during each exhalation of that which we noticed during our previous inhalation is impermanent and non-defining and non-graspable. Simply by sitting and breathing and watching and resting, we gently stimulate our anterior cingulate gyrus, functioning as the hub of our mirror neurons, the seat of empathy, thus inducing us to automatically practice kind intention, kind communication, kind conduct, and kind commerce. Yes, feeling the urge to be kind is good, but it is no guarantee that we will know what the kind thing is, how to practice the kind thing, when to practice the kind thing, or for how long. Simply by sitting and breathing and watching and resting, our choices and utterances and deeds flow. Not from contrived calculations, not from wild scatteredness, but instead from love's deeply centered spontaneity. This is known by many terms. Some call it right effort. Some call it effortless effort. Some call it doing without doing. Some call it wu wei. Some call it effortless action. I think I mentioned that. Some call it going with the flow. Some call it being in the zone. Some call it expedient means. Some call it tathagata, which translates into Buddha nature, or translates as Buddha nature. And so we see that the simple act of sitting and breathing and watching and resting function as the dynamo that turns the wheels and gears of the metaphoric enlightenment machine. Perhaps that is why the Buddha insisted in the second to the final passage of his discourse on the four bases of mindfulness. That one could master his path in as little as 7 days. This is the Dzogchen Semde Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. For multiple decades, I spent about 8 hours a day, almost every day, studying, practicing, mastering, and reverse engineering the teachings and techniques of each school of meditation so that I might be of service to you. It is Luke Skywalker early Friday morning. Come, let us meditate like a Jedi. Instead of stepping in the bear trap of actively focusing upon our nostrils or our breath, let us regard our nostrils and breath the way an enthusiastic, the way in a manner similar to that of an enthusiastic piano student who's so enthralled with his score and his keyboard that he regards the sound of his metronome in merely passive peripheral awareness. Therefore, as we passively notice air enter our nostrils, let us silently and mentally recite the verb watch. And as we passively notice air exit our nostrils, let us silently and mentally recite the verb rest. An excellent preliminary practice would be to gather our subtle energies at the crown of our head. The easiest way to do that is to utilize the Pasadi mudra or meditation gesture, wherein we use the tip of our left index finger to support the lower knuckle of our right index finger, palms up in our lap. This gesture is useful for when in bed, when we lay down in bed at night to sleep. This gesture is useful when we find ourselves on the precipice of a meltdown. This gesture is useful when at last death comes for us, that we might cross that threshold peacefully. It also helps us to keep track of our first of 13 bonus rounds. What is a round? A round is comprised of one inhalation followed by one exhalation. At least it is in this system. So let us practice one round right now. We count sets of 13 rounds. 13 minus 1 is 12. How will we keep track of the next 12 rounds? Upon the finger creases of our right hand. So I'm going to adjust the camera. So here we go. Right hand. Every time we silently and mentally recite the verb watch during our inhalation, we advance our right thumb, beginning with the lower set of creases at the base of our right little finger and concluding with the higher set of creases on our right index finger. Together, let us practice right now. Counting but our first set of 13 inhalations that took just a little bit more than a minute. Therefore, let us keep track of an additional 12 sets of 12 inhalations each. To keep track of our next set, we turn our attention to our left hand and place the tip of our left thumb at the lower set of creases of our left little finger. We now count our bonus round and return our attention to our right hand. In preparation to keep track of our next bonus round, we advance our left thumb to the next set of creases. And now that you have the basic gist of how to count sets and rounds, let us rest both our hands, palms up, in our lap. Our job is neither to push nor pull, to dread or desire, to protect or manifest, but to simply watch and rest and allow that to generate the ability to spontaneously go with the flow. Go with the flow does not mean take in action. It means acting from our deepest wisdom, as opposed to our superficial dreads and desires. To operate from wisdom and peace rather than neurosis and greed and panic. To borrow a phrase from the Dune series of novels, to operate as a human and not an animal. We switch gears now, and in an effort to gently invite our real or imagined subtle energies to coalesce in our chest, we practice the Sati Mudra, or mindfulness gesture, that will assist us in the following exercise. As we passively notice our chest swell with breath, we can silently and mentally recite the verb feel. And as we passively notice our chest subtly sink, as gently we exhale, we can silently and mentally recite the verb rest. But how do we practice this mindfulness gesture? It's as easy as using the tip, whoopsie. It's as easy as using the tip of our left middle finger to support the lower knuckle of our right middle finger, palms up in our lap. It's also a useful tool to count our first of 13 bonus rounds, remembering that a round is simply a set of one inhalation followed by one exhalation. At least it is in this system. To keep track of our next 12 rounds, let us return our attention to our right hand and advance our right thumb across the sets of creases of our fingers during each inhalation. Starting from the lower set of creases of our right little finger and concluding with the third set of creases on our right index finger. To keep track of our next free round, or free set of inhalation and exhalation, let us touch the tip of our left thumb to the lower set of creases of our left little finger, and then count an additional 12 rounds on our right hand. We now advance our left thumb and prepare for another bonus round. And now that we get the basic idea of how to count multiple sets of 12 rounds each, or I should say multiple round sets of 13 rounds each, let us rest our hands palms up in our lap. Having sat for the better part of an hour, 3/4 of an hour to be more precise, we might find it refreshing to knock out 8 repetitions of senior citizen squat thrusts. If you wish to join me, you are entirely welcome. I'm going to take a moment to swing the laptop around so you can see the yoga mat, greater ease. Okay, here we go. Whew. You know what? My back's kind of fussy today, so I don't think I'll do that. You have taken your first step into a much larger world. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. For Meditate Like a Jedi is made possible thanks to the generosity of viewers just like you. In approximately 10 1/4 hours, I would very much like to return to lead today's desk practice of Meditate Like a Jedi. And if you are as geeky as me, may the Force be with you always.